Well, good morning. Happy Monday. It's Yolanda. You know that means it's another episode of Everybody at the Table. Welcome back to part two of the conversation we started last week in episode 15, Hidden in Plain Sight, the genius grit and tables that our youth could build. Someone casually asked Jesus once, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And I'll pose that question because I hear it a lot. Can anything good come out of Chicago? Yes, Donald Trump. Good things can come out of Chicago. The first African American president. And this week, I'm smiling because it's the Pope. Yes, you heard that. And by now, you know that. The newest Pope, Pope Leo, formerly Cardinal Prevost, was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, my side of town, my community. That's just not a win for the church. It's a powerful answer to the question of where brilliance is born. And it's a divine reminder that genius lives in places the world often overlooks. This conversation that we started last week without even knowing what would be the outcome of the conclave is cherry on top to the conversations we should be having about our young people, especially our young people in communities like Inglewood, which is on the southwest side of Chicago, and North Lawndale, which is on the northwest side of Chicago. This moment couldn't be more fitting for our ongoing conversation about how we invest in and develop our youth, especially in communities like Inglewood, North Lawndale, and neighborhoods across this country that are too often misrepresented or forgotten. The South Side of Chicago isn't just a backdrop for negative headlines about the murder rate or the crime rate. It's a birthplace of legacy, of leadership, and of possibility. Joining me again this week is my dear sister and professional social strategist, Adrienne Johnson, who has spent her life and career working with youth on Chicago's South Side, really the West Side. In part two of our conversation, we go even deeper into what our youth need to thrive, how underfunded programs are bracing for the ripple effect of the Trump administration's budget cuts, and what you can do and what I can do, whether through time, resources, or advocacy to help reimagine tables our youth can build. If genius is hidden in plain sight, then the work is to reveal it, resource it, and make sure every young person knows they belong. Let's get into it.
Let me ask you something because you touched on two things I want to explore a little deeper with you for the purposes of creating table space for this community. What are some of the, I guess, values or ideas that we are missing in these kids? I know many of them are into coding, they into gaming, they into so much more that we can develop them in, right? They
Yeah.
could be the next great app developer. The next great social media app may come from this community. So, what are some of the intervention streams, I guess, we should be thinking about when we talk about these young people?
So I think when we're talking about young people, I think the biggest disconnect, and this is just, Adrian, my thought process, I think our young people aren't socialized enough,
Mm.
right? So they they do spend a lot of time, by themselves. And when
Yes.
I say socialized, I mean at a young age. Like, how
Okay.
do I connect? How do you get to go outside? How do you get to do things
Kids don't go outside and
that,
play anymore. They don't go outside and
well,
play with neighbors. They may go in their own backyard and jump up and down, but they're not playing, running like we
that's
did,
that's
running down
that's
the
the
street.
that's the disconnect, yo, because the socialization is really how you begin to figure out who you are as a person. Are
Mm.
you, what your the things that you will stand on, the things that you're like, you know what, y'all going in that store to knock that old lady down and take, I ain't doing that.
Wow.
right? Like you figure those things out very early, but because you're not playing with kids on the block, throwing a football, because you don't need a coach to play football. You know, my
Right.
brother threw the football. You know what I mean? Like I played
I
flag
played football.
football with the
Right. Just in the middle of the
the
street. Get a game going.
in
Move when the
in
cars
the
come.
middle of the street, get the game going, right? Like that socialized you, and that said, okay, I see that this person is this. Like you were exposed, I think, to more things younger, which helps do a couple of things. It helps you figure out what the things, like I said, what you will stand for and what you won't stand for. That's first off. But then also,
That because I'm thinking about how that socialization represents itself in suburban communities because they are closed off, and it's generally through organized sports or the dance teams or things like that, but that costs lots of money to enter into, right? And so it's almost like if you don't have the funds to get into those type of programs, you're cut off. If you're not doing it by running down the street playing with your friends, and it's not safe enough in your community to do that, and your mama can't afford for you to be in the little league football team, and you parents, my kids didn't, I had girls, and so my girls did dance and all the cutesy stuff. But from what I'm hearing, the type of money they spending on some of these organized sports,
yo,
it's
listen to
insane.
this. Listen to this. If your kids outside playing in the street, people ain't hanging out selling drugs. If you outside, it, I mean, in North Lawndale, we called it positive loitering. You know, at
Mm.
some point, people everybody comes sit out on their front porch, right? They not doing that. You know what I mean? And if they
You sitting
are,
like we
pe-
talked about in Inglewood, we talking shit to each other, razzing somebody, watching them play football, encouraging them,
people
all
do bad
organic.
things. People do not, things that are unlawful on the side.
Right, with no one's watching.
You, where nobody's watching. But if everybody is closed up, buttoned up in their homes, it's like, oh, this is a quiet block. I can kick it on this block. I can do things on this
I
block.
can sneak in this door and nobody will see me.
And nobody will see me. I can do whatever I want to do because the block is quiet. But if your kids are out laughing, I mean, it's hard to really do some messed up stuff when your kids outside
Wow.
kicking and having fun.
Wow.
But we've gotten so far away from that our kids are not socialized in the way. I mean, they're social because they're social with the people who the parents socialize them with. When growing up, it was kids who I had my own friends, but I also knew people who I didn't know. It helps you to start to think for yourself. That's what I was missing. On one of the blocks, it was a girl that didn't like me, and she was a bruiser. I didn't fucking walk down her block. Shit. What? But but I knew that. You know what I'm saying? Like I figured that out on my own. Like, oh hell no. Like if I was with my friends, yeah, I'm walking down, but by myself,
I'm not coming down her block.
and she would have plummeted me. She would have killed me. She would have beat the hell out of me. So you
Oh my goodness.
figure it out.
You
You know what
you
I'm saying?
used
But
your cognitive skills
you
to assess risk.
you get some common sense in this joker.
Right, right, right.
So it's like, oh, okay, got it. Okay, nope, I can't walk
Note
there.
to
I'm by
self.
myself. I ain't walking. Let me walk this way.
Right. I'm walking. I'm not
Right?
walking down this block during this time by myself
By
because,
myself.
excuse me, those are just organic things you pick up, like you said, from being out there and being in the community. Just
From being out there and being in the community. So when you don't have that, you know, everybody is on edge, looking around. And I
mistrusting
mean,
of each other.
yes, yes. And I don't know if that necessarily has to be the case. Like that's just I don't want to call it common sense. I really don't want to call it
It's a
that.
developed
Uh,
skill from being in
it's
that.
a developed
Yeah,
skill,
developed skill
just from
that's
being
naturally,
out.
organically developed to what you're
Yeah,
saying to be
yeah,
able to assess threat, risk, what's safe, what's not safe, and that's in you not. It's not just for because the world is dangerous, y'all. It's not just because you're in one of the most violent communities in the city of Chicago. That elevates your need to do that. There's this movement or thing I'm seeing on TikTok where parents are taking their children to the grocery store and letting them walk in the grocery store by themselves because they recognize these kids have been protected. They don't have survival skills. They don't know.
none,
I mean, none. They
none,
can't.
none.
And you're developing kids who literally are being like I walked to the store in the middle of the street, all kind of threats, and not to your point. I learned okay when I go past this building, that gangway looks unsafe, so I'm gonna stay a little close to the street, right?
Right.
Or in the middle of the, if I'm leaving school and I happen to get home after dark, I walk down the street, not on the sidewalk, because it's safer for me to be seen walking in the middle of the street versus on the sidewalk, because I won't get pulled into an alley. Those are skills that you develop that I remember that I must have. That's my grit. When we talk about these
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
having grit, that's my grit that you can't take away. And some people can't understand where that grit comes in and how where it came from, coming through this system and coming through these communities that we think are dangerous and are in some ways, but at the same time it develops us differently to survive the world differently. It's a different
yeah,
outcome. Let me ask you this.
yeah.
I know we need to wrap up. I got two more things I want to ask you, and one thing I want to ask you is, in light of the craziness that is the federal government right now and the
Hmm.
retraction of all government spending, you said the government spending is new, but it's also being retracted. What's the threat to the not-for-profit space and the dollars needed to do this intervention prevention work? What do you expect the outcome to be there? I know we'll have to lean more into philanthropy, but what do you think the outcome is going to be from this craziness that's going on? And how do we address it?
So you address it by individual donors, right? It goes back to that all hands need to be on deck. I do think philanthropy is gonna, is gonna step up. I don't know necessarily if that'll stick. You know what I mean? Like when you
Do
think
you mean what Trump is
about,
trying to do?
yeah, I just don't think it'll stick. I just don't.
I
I
don't
don't think
either.
it's gonna stand because there's so many organizations doing this work across the country. And if you pull funding like that, violence could really shoot up. And it's not just going to be in black and brown communities, it's going to be everywhere. I'm never surprised by anything that the president does, but I'm not shook by it either. You know what I mean? I'm like, "Oh my God." Like I'm not that. And I know that, that there are organizations that, are concerned, but if you do the work, the money's going to come. And I guess my thought behind that is my job is to do what God says. So just keep moving. Like if he say that money, like, the president is stopping money or whatever he's doing, my job is to do what he say.
Mm,
God's job is provision.
mm.
I can't worry about that.
Now
So
you bring.
just keep doing, just keep doing what you're doing. If you're doing this work, you're not doing it because you're getting a ton of money. You're not.
Mm,
You're doing it because this is what you love. You love young people. You want to be able to help them navigate back to what they were created to be, right? Because they kind of got off a little bit. Continue to do the work. And when you do the work, God's job is provision. Allah, the source, like whatever it you call
you.
them. Provision is not your job because otherwise you would be a funder if provision was your job.
I personally, you know this about me. I support several organizations there in the city of Chicago related to youth, one of which is Salem Baptist Church of Chicago and the work that they're doing around Black boy literacy. The other is the Block Chicago, Jamal Cannon, work he's doing not far from North Lawndale, and that is an intentional investment that I give monthly donorship to. And I do that because I think I do carry some guilt from not having lived in Chicago for my adult years, and what that means financially for the communities I care so deeply about. And so for me, is how do I give back from my seat, from Atlanta, from Georgia, where I live? Is there an opportunity for me to help and a responsibility for me to help? And so my last question to you is, barring what I just said, the things that I do, how can people who are attached to the need, attached to the city, attached to North Lawndale, grew up there, I don't live there anymore, Inglewood, I don't live there anymore, how can they help?
Yeah, a few ways. So you don't necessarily have to work or give back to some place where you came from. You don't necessarily have to do that. Do it where you are. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like one of the things that I think young people miss, you remember how back in the day you could come in the room and somebody like Yolanda, like
Mm-hmm.
adults would smile when you came in the room, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
smile at kids when you walk past them
Wow.
because ain't nobody smiling at them, right? Love on young people. Ask them how they're doing. Hey, how you, and speak to them. I would say all the time, speak to them. They're not going to speak to you the first 10 times. They not. Because they like, what kind of weirdo are you speaking to somebody you don't know, right? Because they don't know that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Right. Right.
Speak to them. Hey, how you doing today? Hey, son, how you doing today? Hey, how y'all feel today? I
Mm-hmm.
speak to all young people. Hey, and they'd be like, oh, hey. I'd be like, oh, okay. When I would walk to work, hey, how y'all doing? Standing on the corner, rolling up. Hey, what's going on today, fellas? Hey, grandma.
Wow.
You
Right.
better
Right.
watch your mouth, cause you gonna get smacked. Cause I ain't your grandma. Let me start there. But I get it. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like I
appreciate you
appreciate
saying.
the reverence, but watch your mouth. But speak to young people. Embrace young people. We don't do that because we're scared of them. We scatter young people. This is another analogy of how we lead these next generation of young people. You know how like ranchers herd cattle? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of land, right?
Yep.
But when they start to get a little out of the way, two things gonna happen. One, they
Bring them
gonna
back
send the
in.
dog,
Yep.
or they gonna roll down on them. That's what we do. Adults, Gen Xers and above, we want to keep you in the box that we were put in, and they not like that.
At all.
Take the borders off, love on them, talk to them, volunteer someplace, volunteer anywhere, go someplace and volunteer. If you can't
So it's
volunteer,
what you're saying is, for
give
those
some
who can
money.
can
Yeah,
do money, yes. But if you can't, there are things you can do to give back and foster
if you
community.
can do both.
Absolutely.
Our young people need us. They need adults. They need hands on them. They
Mm.
do. They need hands on them. They
And they
need to.
need it, to your point, they need it from a perspective of openness. It is not me telling you my way, but also trying to learn your way. Teach me
Yeah,
your ways. Teach me how you think. You came up to an entire digital environment. I started typing on a typewriter. These kids don't know what a typewriter is.
they have no clue. So, and spend time with young people. Get to know them. Smile and speak. Give
Mm.
some. If you can give money, great. If you can volunteer, that's even better.
Wow.
Because there are not a lot of people who are spending time with young people that don't get paid.
I'm
Yeah.
so honored that you agreed to have this conversation with me, because
Thank you for asking me. Yeah.
it really, drives my passion for creating space for everybody to exist and have opportunity, and how we dismiss people sometimes because of where they come from or the clothes that they wear. They don't look like us. They don't eat like us. They don't worship like us. And for me, that is the work of this podcast and this community, is expanding our ideas of what it means to have everybody at the table. When I say that, I mean that generally. The only people not welcome to my table is MAGA. They just not welcome. I'm sorry. They're not welcome. Argue with your mama. And this is, for me, is so important because y'all, they are our look, when I get old, these are my doctors. These are my next politicians. These are my next pastors, preachers, neighbors. We might as well invest in them as much as possible, in all of them, not
Mm-hmm.
just the ones that make it out, but the ones who parents choose to stay, or the ones who get trapped. They're all worth our investment.
I'll say this last thing, two things, yo. I've never met a young person is who's happy doing what they're doing. Never. If you
Mm.
give them an opportunity,
They want
they
out.
show up. They show up. I got a job for you, summer job, da da da, blah blah blah. This is what you're gonna be doing. They don't. They don't be late. They don't miss no days. When I did summer youth employment, they didn't. They showed up every day. You better make sure they check there, because they bugging up if they check late. But like I'm bugging up with my check late, so I get it, right? I've never met one young person that says this is exactly, you know what? I wanted to grow up and not graduate high school, be on the street looking over my shoulder every day. This is the life I thought I would live.
Right.
None of them. None of them. They all have dreams and aspirations. They've just been killed. No, I'm not gonna say killed
Not nurtured.
with a T.
They
Not,
haven't.
I'm gonna say killed with a T.
They haven't been
Uh,
nurtured.
yeah. So all it's a little fertilizer, and help them. Don't be afraid of our kids. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And you said something at the beginning, that I inspire you. You inspire me more than you will ever know. When I think about where I am currently, and I think about how you have taken lemons and made lemonade, I just be like, yep, you can do it. So
Oh,
thank you for that. Thank you for being an inspiration to me. I really, really appreciate it. And I love you so much for doing it.
I love you. I love your essence, your being, everything about you, Agent. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I receive that. I'm not gonna shun that off. I receive that. Thank you, sis.
Yeah, no worries. My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I love talking to my sister, and I love talking about big ideas. As we close out this two-part conversation, I want to say this loud and clear. I am uniquely proud of my hometown. I am proud to be a Chicagoan from the South Side. That must be said. Chicago is not just where I'm from, it's who I am. And I, like most Chicagoans, will tell you that within 5 seconds of meeting me. Why? Because we come from grit. We come from community, and we come from hard-earned brilliance. The ire of the far right and Donald Trump and his minions may try to take aim at communities like mine, but that's because they don't understand us. They don't see what we see: the hidden genius, the untapped potential, the kids who need access, investment, and belief. This isn't just about the Pope. Yes, the newly named Pope Leo, born and raised Dalton, Illinois, which is the South Side. It's not just about Barack or Michelle Obama. They are not the exception. They are the rule. They are examples of what happens when we recognize and nurture the brilliance already living among us. So whether you're from Inglewood or North Lawndale or any other place that the world tries to ignore, let this be your reminder. We deserve to be at the table. And when we aren't invited, we know how to build our own. Let's keep building. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. I want to hear your thoughts. What are you proud of from your hometown? How do you represent where you come from? Until next time, take care and dine well.